Are you ready to redefine what it means to thrive at any age? Welcome to Age is Just a Number with BJ and Ruth. In your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, you deserve to live your best life. Say goodbye to preconceived notions and let's shatter those stereotypes together. Get ready to own your vitality because age, well, that's just a number.
Hey everybody, it's BJ.
And Ruth.
And we're back talking about health and fitness. And we've spent the last several episodes talking about goals, goal setting as we're rolling into 2024. So we thought this would be a great idea to just talk to you all about our goals and have you guys share your goals with us. I know somebody had shared with us they have a goal to run a race this year coming up, and they're looking forward to Ruth's protein pancakes as well. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But this is a great opportunity, I think, for us to just talk about what we're doing and for you all to get some input of your own into what are your goals. And maybe this would be a good thing too, is how many of you have goals or you haven't done it yet and you might do it, haven't got to it yet, whatever that place is. But put it in the comments where you think you fit right now with what that looks like. So let's start with
New Year and goals. And yeah, what is your plan? What is the goal? And do it with the intention of a lot of people talk about it's a new year. Everyone's really excited and eager, and then you set the goal and you don't go for it. But it is a great opportunity. Also, it's a new year. Take advantage of it. Set that goal.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get to the brass tacks now.
Uh-huh.
So, what's my goal?
Let's
start with there's going to be more than one, I'm sure, but we're going to stick to kind of health and fitness and what that looks like. So, let's start with one of your goals for 2024.
Well, the big one for me for 2024, you're going to be competing. I'm not going to be competing, but I like to maintain a body size, my fitness ability, and so continue training hard. I'm trying to take down some of my muscle mass because I don't compete anymore. But that being said, I don't want to switch it for body fat, so I want to still stay lean. So I did my caliper test, which is the grabbing the calipers and measuring body fat.
Okay.
And you want me to say the number?
It's all relative.
I want to lose 3% body fat, but if
what's that? That won't make sense for most people. What is that as a number?
As a number right now, when I would compete, I would typically compete at a very low body fat percentage. It would be anywhere from 8 to 10. Mm-hmm. Typically, then when I'm off season, I'd like to be about 12 to 13, and when I just measured, I was at 16%. So I want to lose 3% body fat.
Okay.
So I don't look at it so much as a number on a scale. I look at it because for me, that number on the scale, what does it consist of? And so that's where I measure, I track my body fat percentage.
Okay.
A little bit different.
So how are you going to do that?
How am I going to do that? Well, I start with diet. I do train 5 days a week. I will continue to train 5 days a week. I will probably, I will increase my cardio. So typically I would do cardio, like I climb the mountain every day here at Bear Mountain, and typically I will be adding cardio, about 30 minutes. I'll start with 3 times a week, and then I'll increase it up to 5 times a week.
So that's in addition to hiking up the mountain?
Yeah.
And is part of the regular training then? You're going to cut back on some weights or keep the weights the same?
I'm going to keep the weights the same, keep them light and with a higher reps per set. I typically now train because I'm not growing muscle. I'm not in the 3 to 5 rep range. I'm in the 15 to 18 rep range.
What else is there?
Well, because I want to get smaller, not bigger. But a lot of it is diet. It's going to start with diet. I know my vice. Everyone has a weakness. Mine is sugar. It was a holiday time of lots of candy, jelly beans. I do have alcohol back in my socially back in my world, and so that has to be cut back, and I know that. So cutting it back, cutting it out, and then cleaning up my diet that way. Okay. I typically eat clean, right. But it's the sugars have to go.
Okay. And so what does that mean? Like snacks, or what's your sugar vice?
Candy.
Okay.
Candy is colorful, and I'm the 54-year-old who loves anything that is colorful and tastes good and sweet.
Okay.
At the bulk barn, my favorite aisle is the candy aisle. It's colorful, and I'll have a little bit of everything.
My last competition, I went with a bag of Skittles, and all morning I was eating Skittles every couple of hours. I gotta say, after doing that, I'm still not a big fan of Skittles.
I like jelly beans. My nickname in my diet prep was always Jelly Bean, and I would actually, no matter when my competition was, which the last one for the Worlds was in November, at Easter time, that previous to November, I bought the bag of the Easter jelly beans, and
Okay.
I won the show and won the world title, and I came out from backstage with my jelly beans because I waited 20 weeks for those.
Yeah. So, the interesting thing for all of you too is, like Ruth said, everybody's got a challenge or something that challenges them. So
Yeah.
it's figuring out how to navigate that. And for you, like you said, you have to figure out a way or put yourself in a position where you're not going to be eating a whole bunch of, whether it's jelly beans or whatever it is.
And for me personally, because I've been doing this for like 15 years now, and for me personally, to cut out sugar is difficult and it's a challenge, but it's the first 2 weeks for me that are the most difficult. When I get through those first 2 weeks,
Right.
my cravings will
Sure.
lessen.
Yeah.
So then I'm not craving them anymore. I'm not craving sugar anymore.
Right.
But I have to get through the first 2 weeks, which
Okay.
is my biggest challenge.
Right. And so where are you at in that right now?
So right now I'm week 1, and so I've switched out candy for fruit, grapes.
Okay.
Higher glycemic carb, but it's giving me that sweetness in the natural sugars. So, and then I will cut that back too. But at this point, I'm grabbing grapes instead of jelly beans. So it'll get me through that 2 weeks.
Yeah. And are you going to use any sugar substitute?
I do often use stevia.
Right.
I do use that, but be mindful of the fact that often artificial sweeteners, they're sweeter than natural sugar.
Yeah.
So like stevia typically is 4 times sweeter than actual sugar. So be careful, like use it but be mindful that it might not take away the sugar craving. You might still get
Right.
that sugar craving.
Yeah.
So
Like, it's interesting because I use monk fruit, but I don't use it because I crave sugar.
Right.
I just like my tea to have some
some
sweetness.
sweetener. Yeah.
But I don't put it in my coffee. My coffee's always black.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a normal thing because I don't use sugar for that. I think the other thing that I use, both Marie and I use, is we use all the sugar-free, zero-calorie syrup.
Yes.
So for my last meal of the day is typically yogurt and blueberries and chia seeds and some honey and what else goes in there? Some granola.
Nice.
And then on top of it all is free pour of
the
syrup.
sugar-free syrup. Yeah. I think the bottom line is learning what works for you and what doesn't. I've had 15 years behind me to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't.
Right.
And if you try something that doesn't work, don't beat yourself up over it. Okay, that didn't work, so let
Right.
me try this.
Sure.
And then if you learn from it, you know what not to do next time.
Right. So here's a question: were you surprised when you saw 16%?
No.
You weren't.
No, I wasn't surprised because I have a feeling like I'm pretty in tune with my body, and
Okay.
so I measure on a regular basis. I don't like to hop on the scale too often. Again, I'm not so caught up with the numbers. I'm more caught up with the inches.
Okay.
So I measure but I do hop on the scale, and I know how things fit. I look in the mirror quite often and look at my body, and so I knew I was up there. Believe it or not, one of the things I go by, I typically have 6-pack abs. When I'm feeling them but not seeing them, I'm carrying more body fat.
Okay.
So that's my gauge. Often it's like I'm feeling like I've got the abs, but when I can't see that 6-pack show up,
It's a keg.
it's just not there. I know it's there. I can feel it, but I can't see it. So
Right.
and that for me often is, my abs will always come in first. So for me, that's my indicator that I need to tighten it up. I need to clean it up a little bit
Okay.
and dial it back. We use terms like that in our sport: dial it back, clean it up,
Right.
because we have the knowledge to loosen up the reins or pull them back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And anything else for
No.
goals, like health and fitness related?
Health
Is
and
that kind
fitness,
of it?
you know what? I'm liking what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm going to be 55 in June, so I'm liking the fact that I can still hike up a mountain with my dog, and I can go to the gym and train. And I am really, really more mindful of paying attention to what my body tells me.
Yeah.
My very last workout for 2023 was a deadlift day.
Okay.
And got my ego checked at the door when I loaded up the bar and I couldn't lift it off the floor. And that weight that I had on the bar used to be my warm up back in the day. So got my ego checked at the door, and then could barely move the next day on January 1st. So you've done it too, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I know I've done it. I think, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
What about you?
So obviously, before I get to the competition, one of my goals for this year is to be between 6 and 8 hours of sleep every night. And the sweet spot I'm trying to go for, my sweet spot, I think, is 7 hours. So, and it's just, for something like that, we've done a whole episode or two actually on the value of sleep. I don't think we've aired them yet, but they will air, and you'll see about the importance of sleep. And since I did the research for that, I just really saw the value of it, and I feel the difference of putting in the time for sleep, from just every aspect, mentally, emotionally, obviously physically, and then in the building of muscle and recovering.
Fitness. Yeah.
And recovering for sure.
Yeah.
So, and my simple thing for that is I'm aiming to basically be heading for bed around 8:30, so that and before going to bed, that I get some time where I'm gonna do. It's not. I do most of my journaling in the morning, but I spend a little bit of time before going to bed for me, I just write down what were three wins for the day. And then also just identifying up to three, but usually it's around two, but objectives for the next day so that I can put the important before the urgent. So if I look at the night before, okay, what's important to ultimately achieve my goals for 2024? Or how about this? What's important for me to be my future self right now?
Yeah.
And those are the things I'm going to prioritize the next day, because we all know that the urgent can overtake the important. So I want to identify what is that, what are those important things, and then how am I going to make them a priority? Because the other things still have to get done, right? But how am I going to make this a priority? How am I going to work this into my schedule? Or more appropriately, how am I going to work my schedule around this, right? Because my schedule works around my training.
Yes.
Right? And my schedule works around my meals and nutrition plan, right? So example would be even coming here where we're shooting today in the studio. On the way here, I had, I was at my third meal, so I basically prepared it, put it in a to-go container, like a Tupperware container, and I ate it while I drove up here because I had to have it at a certain time, roughly. So I worked my schedule around that because that's a priority. So
that makes me think of something, because one of the things that as a personal trainer, that when I brought in new clients, and they often said, "How do you fit it in? How do you make it work?" And it's bottom line is we make time for things that matter. So for you, BJ, it's training. And so you work around that because you're not prepared to give up the training.
Right.
You're prepared to work. It's so important to you. You make the time for it, and you make things work around it.
Right.
And that's something to keep in mind as people are thinking fitness. we make time for things that matter to us. So if
Yeah.
your fitness matters, it's a given. You're going to fit it into that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part of it too is from a meal point of view, and the meal that I brought, I didn't have to cook it because it's already cooked. I
Right.
just had to weigh it.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to weigh out the potatoes, I had to weigh out the chicken, I had to weigh out the pepper and pour in the olive oil, and off we go.
Yeah.
So preparation is the key for something like that, and we've talked about that as well. So that's number one for me, is making sure that I am on top of that from a sleep point of view. And of course, number two is I'm competing in November at the UFE Men's Physique World Championship. So we are in January now. I expect that we'll start the pre-contest diet January, February, March, and it's going to be we're doing it longer on purpose,
Slow and steady. Yeah.
so that we have some more time and probably can actually make a plateau on purpose in the middle, and then continue on from there. So, an example with that is I'm trying to figure out how I can get a little more gym time in the morning.
Right.
So, and these numbers will not be realistic for most people as far as the time that I spend in the gym and when I go. But for me, I'm just trying to add some more time so that I can put more time in certain muscle groups and certain exercises. So I'm figuring out what that's going to look like or how that's going to go. And there's a way to make it work. That's the thing, right? There's a way to make it work. I know for myself, one of the things is I'm not interested in doing double splits. I've done them before, but I don't really want to do that. Double splits, by the way, are you train in the morning and you train in the evening.
And the train, you actually split it up. And I think for those of you that follow us, it's going to be a really interesting journey if you keep following us come March, because you're going to see one of us is going into competition mode, one of us is not. I am not. And we're going to have two really different perspectives. I have an understanding, a complete understanding. I've lived what BJ is doing, but you're going to be talking from a different perspective than I'm coming from. I'm coming from, the goal I have is simply because it's something I want to hit, and I will hit it because I've got that drive behind me. But I think the people who follow us are going to have a really interesting perspective come March. You're going to see a different lifestyle that BJ is going to go into versus my lifestyle, and yet we're both the same age. And you're going to get both two very different perspectives. BJ will he measures his food. I don't. I did. I don't.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna get a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah. So that's those are two of my major ones. There's other ones, and maybe we'll talk about those on another day. But we're running out of time today. But for me, those are the two of the main ones for the upcoming year. Is for me 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night and working my schedule accordingly. And one of the things with that too is not being on technology for the half hour leading up to bed. I have no problem sleeping. I lay down, I go to sleep. Never had a challenge. Actually, one time I was at the dentist getting my teeth cleaned, and suddenly she's tapping me on because I fell asleep.
Fell asleep.
If I lie down,
Who does that at the dentist's office?
Apparently I do, because if I go to sleep, if I lay down, I go to sleep. So
right.
I'm really prioritizing sleep in the upcoming year, and just because it's so important for everything else that we do, and just even in being emotionally stable, mentally stable, physically stable, all of those things. And then as far as the goal or the competition coming up, the way that for me those steps come is when we hit March, my diet, like Ruth said, my diet will change, my workouts will change, and all of those things. Right now, we're just focusing on building as much mass as I can before we start the diet process. And we've talked about this before also, is UFE is a natural federation, and we're proponents of natural training and exercise of whatever you do. So there's no PEDs involved. There's none of that in this situation. So that's what I'm preparing for, and those are kind of the immediate goals that I've set for the upcoming year. There's probably, like we said, another episode where we could talk about some more things, because there's other relevant things that we can do to help with our overall well-being that maybe aren't necessarily about you going to the gym, but we can talk about that another time. But if you're watching and you haven't, please take a minute and subscribe to the channel. We're putting out regular content every week, and more content as we go. So you want to make sure that you don't miss anything. So please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get all of the notifications for new content coming up. And you know, we've said this a few times, Ruth also has a zero sugar, right? Zero sugar, zero fat, high protein pancakes. And
Zero carbs.
And zero carbs.
Zero carbs.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So the deal is, we'll make the recipe available to everybody once we go over our first goal of 100 subscribers. And so the other part of that's really important is I get to eat some too. So, but we have to get over 100 subscribers for Ruth to be prepared to do that.
I'm not going to give it up easily. It took me years to perfect it.
Yeah, so if you haven't, please take a minute and subscribe. And like we said, tell us about your goals. What are you doing this year? What's your plan for this year? What are your challenges this year? Have you thought about it at all? Or is it just kind of I don't know if I want to,
And if you've thought of something and you don't quite know where to start, put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Ask us questions. We would love to give our feedback and help you.
Yeah, and
help you get there.
And there's other people that we bring on the program as well that maybe have expertise in areas that we don't, or feedback from different points of view. With it could be anything from cycling to running, all of those things. So please put that in the comments as well. And thank you for joining us. And hey, have a great 2024. Enjoy this. I mean, it's a great year ahead of us. Don't believe the bad press that it's all going to be a bad year. Right?
It's going to be a fabulous year.
100%.
Last year, not so much. This year, it's going to be fabulous.
100%. So thank you for joining us again. And remember,
age is just a number.
See you.